So as they're setting up downstairs in my office, I was upstairs feeling all of my feelings. And I actually really like the approach of doing something so it evokes the feeling.
Right.
So you really can get free and it's not just a concept. So I was just feeling the feeling of not good enough in my body. What was it like? What if I wasn't good enough? Would that be okay? Did I have space for that in my body? Was I willing to just feel it, even if it was for 90 seconds?
Hi, and welcome back to the Get Loved Up podcast. I am here with Alyssa Nobringa. She is a soul-centered leadership coach, and she is helping women worldwide step into their next level of greatness. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining me.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am just blown away by the work you've done in this space, and you do the work, and we have a similar mentor and inspiration in Byron Katie. The work, and I really want to you to share your journey with the work.
Okay.
And first of all, how you found it,
Yeah.
and your journey in doing the work on your own.
I love it. I love that we're starting here. Byron Katie is one of my biggest mentors and love her work, which is essentially questioning the thoughts that create stress in our lives. And I think like any of us, we find the work when we're hurting. And so I was going through a breakup at the time, and I was staying away from my partner of 3 years and just went to my girlfriend's house to get space. And that book popped out, Loving What Is. And I was like, curious about this, and opened it, and I just digested having something that felt really true and practical to come back to peace beyond the stories I was believing and making up in my mind.
Right.
And so this has been, I don't know, maybe 15 years now that I've been doing the work.
Right.
I actually, before I got here, I was doing the work with somebody. We trade half an hour and a half an hour of just questioning our beliefs. And I've had a practice of doing the work regularly for about an hour minimum a week. And that I would say has changed everything for me, more in terms of like integrating, not just getting lost in all the stories that my mind makes up.
That is beautiful, doing the work, and you have a set time. You have an accountability partner.
I need it because otherwise my ego would resist sitting down and getting still and really getting present with all the chaos. I think that's one way the ego can keep itself existing, is just by keeping us busy. And so having somebody to hold me accountable supports me in showing up for it.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you said the ego. So what are your feelings around the ego?
Like, what's the ego?
Against us? Is it for us? What is it? Absolutely. Let's dive into that.
To me, the ego, it's funny, to me, the ego is just identifying with thoughts and emotions. And I have a compassionate sense towards the ego. I think it's health. I'm licensed as a psychotherapist, so I have a more yes to being human and having a healthy ego structure, and then also waking up to what's beyond it feels important.
And do you feel like when you started doing the work after this breakup, what were the things that helped you? Because we all go through breakup, heartbreak, and things like that. So what are the things, I guess the top 3 things that help you in dealing with this breakup?
Yeah, I was thinking about you doing a lot of self-love practices. And for me, mentally, self-love on the mental level is questioning my thoughts, doing Byron Katie's work. It's such a practice of mine. On an emotional level, I really love something called Gestalt therapy, where it's really just allowing the energy to be expressed and allowed, not identifying with it, but letting the victim in me have a voice, have a place at the table, not identifying, not letting it drive the car, but letting it come up and out, maybe some forgiveness work after that. And obviously community is really important to feel nourished on a deep level, and just moving my body. But those are some of my self-love practices to keep me in check.
Allowing the victim to come out, what does that look like?
Okay, it's like nobody wants to be with me, and I just feel like everybody's out to get me, and just letting it be, ham it up, let it be unconscious, so that it's almost like a little kid. It just has its permission, because oftentimes that's all it's looking for, is to be allowed, and then it moves on.
So allowing the anger to express, or the fear, or the doubt, or the worry.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Expression, I feel like, is the biggest tool. Before you can have the forgiveness, you have to express.
That's right.
I read this book, Radical Forgiveness, and that was all about don't be afraid to say how angry you are, how frustrated you are.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of your work as well.
Yeah.
And
I would say awareness, how I see the model is awareness, expression, forgiveness, new action.
I love that.
So that model supports me. It's like, okay. And then there's deeper levels of it as we integrate.
Right. And so after the breakup and you let it out, what happens after this?
I went to a program, I had a master's in spiritual psychology and really was a master's in personal development of learning how to navigate my emotional and mental realms, feel more deeply connected spiritually. So that I started learning tools and coming back to myself through that program and developing. I knew I wanted to be a therapist, so that was part of it, being able to do my own work to support others.
Right.
So it now feels more integrated, but the biggest things is somatic work of really so sometimes we don't need to know what the story is, but we feel it in our bodies. And so really letting ourselves feel an energy in our body without needing to think about it. And it actually integrates into our nervous system. For me, learning to really be in my body and come back to my body and not just live up here was helpful as well.
Right. And what kind of body things do you do? What kind of physical practices do you do?
There's a type of somatic work that's called Hakomi that I really love. It's a Hakomi psychotherapy practice. But essentially it's just, to be really basic for anybody listening, if there's a tension in your body right now, whoever may be listening, to take a moment to drop into it directly and just breathe acceptance and peace into it. And just to notice it. It's like giving it full permission to be here as long as it wants to be here. And then it just starts to disintegrate, starts to dissolve.
That's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful practice, just going within to work things out.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a very nurturing and divine feminine energy as well.
Yeah, and to be compassionate with the ego, who may be looking for love and attention, or is angry, or is insecure. Like to go within and nurture those parts of ourselves, to mother those parts of ourselves, is the alchemy that they're looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
And then we feel more vibrant and alive and purposeful and present in our life as a result.
I agree. That's so beautiful. And so a lot of people would say that, some people say, I guess, that Byron Katie's work, it really goes in. It's kind of like aggressive or fierce, if you will.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts about that? And do you feel like it's necessary?
I think it's like a sword that just cuts through illusion. And I feel like it's compassionate and gentle and direct.
Right.
And I love that you can use it on your own at any time for free. She even has a hotline that you can call 24 hours a day and get support. It's called the Helpline. So it's just such a beautiful business. It's such a beautiful offering. I would just recommend anyone that's looking for any type of a tool to start there.
I agree. She's a wonderful woman. I met her in person at one of her workshops at Wanderlust Hollywood, and just got to really just see her in the physical form and just acknowledge like the work she's done in my life and of course so many others. And so what else have you used to really help
it's interesting,
you?
just to share that. It's like I remember I've been with her a few times in person. I've been training with her for a while. And one time I saw her at a party and she just looked at me and she's like, are you having fun noticing all the images? And I was like, what? And I realized everything other than this moment is an image in my mind. And so she was awake to the story of whatever, like any memory is an image. It's not reality, it's not true. So even comparison is an image in the mind about past or future. And so just that 20 seconds with her, you know, it was just like, woke me back up to, oh yeah, it's all an illusion. It's all images in my mind.
Wow. And you were at a party.
I was at a party. It was a fundraiser. Yeah. I was like, hi, Katie. Just so happy to see her.
Right.
And she just was like, are you having fun with all the images in your mind? And I'm like, oh, now I am.
Right.
Woke me back up to what's really real, that I don't have to think into existence.
Right.
And that then we know this is all a movie and we can enjoy it more easily.
Right. And what does that feel like when it comes to, okay, I just have reality?
Yeah.
Like, have you had a time in your life where you're like, look, no, this is terrible. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I let myself speak from that place. I don't try to convince myself that it's not terrible.
Right.
Like, I think there's something really beautiful in letting ourselves honor what's really here and not try to spiritualize it away or have a concept of it should be different.
Right.
So it feels honoring just to say, yeah, it feels terrible, huh?
Yeah.
So emotional mastery to me is really meeting the emotion, letting it be heard, and then it moves on. So I'm a stepmom, and one of the books that I really found valuable was How to Talk So Your Kids Listen and Listen So Your Kids Talk.
That is beautiful.
And it's a great title. And
Right.
the same principles that apply for kids also applied for my couples. So I used to be a couples therapist. And it's almost like you trigger each other's wounds so you become 5 again in romantic relationship. So I gave them some mirroring tools that help them actually connect beyond the defenses.
Right.
Same things happen with kids. So if somebody's in an emotional state, rather than telling them logically they should be different, actually mirror their emotional state. I really get that you're frustrated. You don't have to agree with it, but it helps dissolve the defense.
Right.
And we can do the same with us if we're mothering or fathering this part of ourselves. And because the logical mind and the emotional heart, they speak different dialects.
Right.
And so you want to make sure that they're connected. And so before giving a logical answer, it's about really meeting it emotionally. Like, I really get that you're scared. Tell me more. And so I nurture that part of me that may be scared or feeling insecure. And then it starts to dissolve, it starts to relax.
Right.
And then from there I can take intelligent action. I can be more strategic on pitching the proposal, or giving the talk, or inviting the client in, but because I feel more whole inside myself because I've met those parts of myself.
Right. That is powerful work. And some people don't feel like it's easy.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like if someone's listening?
Yeah, I've had them in my offices.
Right. and they're just like, I don't know. What
I would say, has it worked? What you're doing, has it worked? And if it has, awesome, keep going with it.
Right.
And if it hasn't, be willing to test this out. Because on the other side of resistance is transformation, is freedom. And so I would have people, when I was a therapist, I would have people, I don't want to go there. It's never going to stop. I don't know if I'll ever stop crying.
Right.
And so to have somebody that, either a friend, a coach, a therapist, somebody that can hold you through that, is totally fine. So you feel held and safe.
Right.
But then to go there, because oftentimes the things that we're running from, we just postpone feeling.
Right.
And when we're courageous enough just to feel the feelings all the way through, they lift.
Right.
And I wouldn't say that if it didn't work.
Right.
And also, you knowing, or anybody knowing as a concept, doesn't change their life.
Right.
So the willingness to, it's like a Band-Aid. Maybe it hurts a little bit for a second, but then you don't have to have, that's a terrible example, but
do you have a personal story or example of how you have done the work yourself?
Yes. Yeah, a big one that I've shared is around, many years ago, I was a therapist intern, and I went to Bali on this magical trip with my friend for a few months around the world, ended up in Bali, and met up with a woman who I offered a session to, and she was really changed by it and wanted to share the work with other people. She became a producer on Deepak Chopra's channel and was doing something called 30 Days of Intent. And they had a guy and a girl, work with all these different healers and just kind of show their journey of transformation.
Right.
I wasn't looking for PR. I hadn't been doing anything publicly. I was still an intern, really feeling not good enough and small and hiding behind my therapist office. And they reached out to film some sessions, and I felt like I needed to produce and perform, and I had no idea who these people were or what was going to happen. So I felt myself crumble in perfectionism, crumble in just being paralyzed in fear. So as they're setting up downstairs in my office, I was upstairs feeling all of my feelings. And I actually really like the approach of doing something so it evokes the feeling.
Right.
So you really can get free and it's not just a concept. So I was just feeling the feeling of not good enough in my body. What was it like? What if I wasn't good enough? Would that be okay? Did I have space for that in my body? Was I willing to just feel it, even if it was for 90 seconds? Neuroscientists say you only need to feel a feeling for 90 seconds before it moves through the body, if you're not continuously creating that story in your mind about it.
Right.
And so I felt it. And ironically, the feeling of not good enough, when I really went in there and I was compassionate with that part of me, it opened me to my wholeness, to an experience of peace, an experience of freedom.
Right.
Like I really didn't need to run away from it. Now I had the capacity to stretch and feel all of it. And I went downstairs and I invited these other 2 people to do the very same thing for themselves and had powerful sessions. But because I wasn't trying to prove my worth through how I was performing, I was free.
That's powerful.
It was
not having to prove your worth by how you perform. And I think that's powerful, especially for perfectionists, because it's all about, am I performing good enough?
Yes.
Am I doing this well enough?
That's right.
So to really step into that, like completely, is that something that you come back to every day, or is it something that, because I feel I struggle with it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I feel like I'll meet it and I've seen that before, but I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's layers of it that get chipped away.
Right.
And I had an orientation where it was like, how, rather than thinking, how does this not come up again? It's like, how do I love this that comes up? Because everything's simply looking to be met with love.
Absolutely.
That's it. It's like a little kid, same with an emotion, same with a thought. And ironically, when we meet it, it moves on. But unconsciously, we think if we resist something, or no, we unconsciously think if I accept something, then it won't change.
Right.
But that couldn't be further from the truth. It's like what I resist, what I push away, I give my energy to. So the opposite is true.
Right.
If I really accept it, I have elevation over it. And then I can make a conscious choice. Like I accept that this is what it is. And from here, what do I choose to do? I'm not in resistance to it, and therefore I feel free.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, it's a practice because because sometimes
like
it's
yoga.
like, yeah, exactly. And sometimes I have supports for myself to really stay consistent with it. Other times it's, I watch myself dance. I was like, I just know what I'm doing. I'm looking for attention by doing something. And it's like, I have compassion for that too.
Right.
I feel like anytime that I've judged myself or judged the inner critic, I'm just further in that trap.
Right.
And so like the power of acceptance is one of the most beautiful teachings that I keep coming back to, and in every moment keeps reminding me, because it's instant. As soon as I say yes to it, I relax.
So acceptance, compassion, self-acceptance, self-compassion. Because I really feel like when we really have that for ourselves, only then can we truly express it to others.
Yeah.
I think some of the most rude, mean, upset people is because they put a lot of pressure on themselves, and therefore they see it in other people.
That's right.
So have you really experienced where you're working with someone and they just like cannot get past it? They can't do the work.
Like a client?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had, back in the day, I'm not thinking of any coaching clients right now, but mainly I think because people that are really investing in themselves are open-minded and wanting to change. So they're willing to. Whereas as a couples therapist, I had people come into my office that I could tell they were just showing up to say, checked couples therapy, and now I want a divorce. And I was like, I fired them as a couple.
Right.
I said, I'm willing to serve you and to support you and really help you through this, but you have to want it. And so that was a little bit of tough love, and they didn't come back. I don't know what happened, but I hope that conversation served them.
Right. And I think that's really important. You have to want it.
That's right.
Because I feel like you can know the work, you can do the work, but if you really don't know what you want out of it, how is it supposed to manifest? And what if you have someone that's coming to you and they're just like, I've tried to do the work, I've been through a lot in my life, and I can't get past the trauma. I can't get past being sad. I can't get past wanting to give up.
So two things. One is to just find out if they've really given themselves permission to relax, to let themselves be defeated and be where they are fully. Because if they really have surrendered to like, this is where I'm at, oftentimes it moves on.
Right.
If they've tried that, then I would look at identity. What's the unconscious payoff? What do they think they're getting by holding on to that story, that identity? Because oftentimes there's a subconscious competing intention behind it. So for example, we say we want something, but we're also scared of it. And so finding out.
That's me. That's me. I say I want a relationship, scared.
Yes. Okay, so here's something really practical that I would say to do, which would be like, okay, what are the things that I fear would happen if I'm in relationship? And I would write each one of those down, and those become the breadcrumbs back to your freedom. So it's like, okay, because if you want it, you're going to naturally move towards it.
Right.
But if you fear it, then you're also going to subconsciously sabotage it.
Absolutely.
So if you clear those fears by writing them down and then bringing Byron Katie's work through it, you just naturally move towards relationship or what you desire.
Yeah, I think I need to redo Byron Katie's work on relationships. I'm moving towards some good stuff, but I feel the fear come up. And I feel like at this time in life, and I think a lot of women are here where it's like, I think the biggest fear is, and what happened in my last relationship is feeling like I can be fully of myself and fully in a relationship, a nurturing relationship with someone as well. And I think you try not to fear that. And you tell yourself, I can't. But the reality is it takes a certain amount of time to be with your partner and a certain amount of time to be successful. And you're in a relationship. So how do you find that balance?
I imagine you really value freedom.
I do. I also value family and partnership and love and romance a lot.
So I would just be really clear with what your desire is, what kind of relationship you want to be in, and not settle.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm clean. I feel like I'm attracting on the level of what I feel like I have some good love in my life, some good nurturing relationships. Yeah. And it's all about deciding what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
And you're sharing how you've been in a relationship,
10 years.
10-year relationship.
10-year relationship, married 5,
okay.
3 stepkids. And I met my husband doing the work. So we both were doing the work. We were both at this master's program in spiritual psychology.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
And how has it been? I mean, because I know that's also maybe challenging when you meet someone that is definitely elevated consciousness, definitely doing the work. How has it been doing the work together?
So it's interesting because relationships feel easy for me. My stuff has come up around work. So his stuff has come up a little bit around relationship. It wasn't necessarily easy combining family together, right? So like family units changing. That wasn't always easy. But for the most part, it's been pretty easy on my part around the relationship. I had done a year of being the one I was waiting for. So I dated myself, and I really owned that I was the source of love and it wasn't outside of me. And so that was really helpful, not to settle for anything less than I was already experiencing within myself.
I think that's powerful. I think you need to say that again. Not settling less
for anything less than what I was experiencing on my own.
That's beautiful.
So then it becomes about enhancing love. And I think that, I studied imago therapy, which is another great resource for people. It's Getting the Love You Want is a book that they have. I don't know that it's entertaining, but it's educational, it's foundational. And they say the bigger the attraction, the deeper the wound. And so if you see somebody and you're like, yes, oftentimes that's the subconscious that knows it can help heal the stuff that's come up around the parent that you didn't feel loved by. And so that's where that's an opportunity to really heal that work together, to do if you're in conscious partnership, you don't have to be, you can do the work without your partner, or if you're single, and if you change your steps in the dance changes. You don't need them to, but you can also consciously do it together.
Right.
And that was really powerful for me to really do that work. But more of my stuff comes up around work.
And what do you mean when you say stuff comes up around work?
It's more around achievement. It's more around achievement and really needing to be mindful around the comparison mind. Of not thinking that I should be further along or that I didn't do something as good as someone, trying to, if I don't check myself, then my unconscious, there's something called the Enneagram. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's a personality test.
Yes.
I love the Enneagram. And that's a personality test. That's not who we are, right? Who we are is beyond the personality. And yet, if I am not awake to certain tendencies, then I will achieve or do or try to prove my worth through success.
I think that's really important because I always say, we are love, but there's tendencies. We're spiritual beings, have a human experience. Right. So in that human experience, I think these tests and numerology and astrology, those things are helpful to help us understand our tendencies.
Yes.
And so how do you feel like this program really helped you align in the work?
I almost felt naked because I felt like it saw me at my core desire and my core wound. And there's 9 9 different types of personalities, and I identify more with a 3, which is the achiever, the producer, I think, or something like that. And so it's like, oh, how am I looking? And I feel like at the core of it, everybody's looking for love, attention, and approval in some way in the world. And these are the 9 ways to do that unconsciously. But really the medicine is inside of us to sort of have compassion for those tendencies, and to really marinate and see that part of us that's looking for what we think we are outside of us. Which is so innocent, you know? And so having a compassionate practice with the ego, or with people that are critical of you even, right? Because if they're critical, or if you are being critical, that's just a call for love. And so slowing it down to, I mean, even in Byron Katie's work, so she talks about the first act of war is defense. And so if somebody says something that hurts us, it's like, if we defend, that's the moment we create the war. And so can I find what they're saying? Can I find some truth in what they're saying? And actually that helps dissolve the war. You don't have to find what they're, you know, any truth in it. But if you do, then it's like you don't go into againstness. But you also, you're not identified with the story. And so it moves through.
I love that.
And that's the compassion that just is, it's meeting whatever thoughts, whatever feelings, whatever behaviors, just having compassion actually is more productive.
Absolutely. And if you don't identify with the story, it moves through.
That's right.
And that, I think that happens a lot in life. A lot of things happen to us, but unless we identify, it's just an event. But I feel like once we attach ourselves to these labels, like I am this, I am that, that's when we start to create our own story around that. And
even the good stories.
Even the good stories.
One, that's still a limitation.
We want to attach to all the good stuff, right? So you mentioned you were a mother and a stepmom. Some people like to say bonus mom. So what is that like? Because I know I have some parts of the community, and I just interviewed Lita Lewis, and she was like, I like to call myself a bonus mom.
I love that.
She has 4 bonus children, and you said you have 3. And so how is that? How is that experience?
It's been evolving. So my youngest was 6 months, and the oldest was 3.5 or so. But it's evolved over the 10 years. So it was hard in the beginning. Like it was hard. And I didn't have direct contact with his ex, and I really wanted to be cordial. I wanted everyone to get along, and that was not her agenda or intention. And so I really had to give myself permission. I took it on as a spiritual practice, as her being a teacher for me, to give her permission, full permission to not like me, to not want her to be any different than the way she was. It took me some time. It took me about 2.5 years of really working on it. But I felt like I unplugged my plug from her socket and put it back in myself. It's like I was no longer needing her to be different for me to be okay. And I felt my power back. And powerful. It took some time. And then for many years, we just didn't connect very often. And then it would get hard. And when, around holidays and things. But more recently, just this last Christmas, she invited myself, my husband, and his family over to her house. And it feels like we've really turned a corner. She's really done the work. I've done the work. We are both wanting the best for the kids. And she lives 11 houses away now. Wow. So it feels hopeful because I want that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the kids, they're easy and great. And we're going on spring break next week and going to Mexico tomorrow.
And what are their names?
Mila, Sienna, and Emilio.
Oh, what beautiful
13,
names.
10, and 11.
Wow.
Yeah, girl, boy, girl.
Wow, that's beautiful. And do you feel like this is something that you ever work with or, share, in your daily work, or is this something more personal?
It's more personal. Yeah. I don't have the mom gene. Like there's nothing inside me that says I need to birth my own babies.
Right.
And so I've just honored that. I got a lot of questions when I was younger. People would say, oh, you'll change your mind, or you're still young. Like a lot of projections about what I knew to be true.
Right.
And it feels really perfect. I love these children, and I love being a bonus presence and somebody that loves them in their life, and really letting their mom be their mom, and being a loving presence. And I've got a cat, a dog, and 3 kids part-time.
Right.
It kind of works out for me. I really enjoy it. So we have them, grow with them. It helps me develop more of my nurturing qualities. And then they go home and I focus on business and my husband.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And what do you feel like has, being business focused, what do you feel like has been your greatest accomplishment?
That is such a good question. I feel like my life, the way that I live my life. It's not necessarily what you would put on a resume, but I feel really balanced, and I love how I show up, who I am, and really honoring my values. Right. Like I live my values, so that feels fulfilling for me.
And what does that look like, living your values? What does that look
so
like
good.
On a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So a lot of people ask me about like, how do I find my purpose? And for me, it's about living my values in all areas of my life. So for example, my top 5 values are growth, connection, service, love, and truth. Growth, service, connection, love, and truth. And so how do I express those values in my health? In my relationships, and how I invest money, or setting up my business. So for example, for taking care of my body, I do group fitness because I like connection. It's just more fun for me. And for my business, I have service elements to it. So I really about leading with service. But for me, that is an equation for living really fulfilled. Is just living those values.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I have a question that I ask every guest. Okay. And it is, how do you get loved up? So how do you love yourself, love others, and love the world?
That's beautiful. I receive love most through service and through compliments. And so I try to give that to people that I love so that it feels good for me, but I feel like I get to share and see and acknowledge them. And try to do that to myself by practicing compassion for myself nightly. Feels like a really beautiful way to love on myself.
What's your favorite nighttime routine?
Compassionate self-forgiveness.
So you go through, is there anything that I haven't forgiven?
It's more like I forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding that, and then whatever the judgment was for the day, and the truth is. And I learned that through the University of Santa Monica, but it's,
I love that.
Everyone talks about these morning routines. I think it's about the night routine.
The night one. Yeah. After you've lived the whole day and been through all the traffic and all the meetings and all the stuff.
Because it's like that affects the quality of our sleep, which affects the quality of our days. So it's like, if you are in a really juicy, loved up space at night, you're going to feel more refreshed and a better quality of sleep by the morning.
I love it. I do it all. I do morning,
Good
night,
for you.
And midday.
I'm sure you do.
Before you came, I was like, I need a horizontal pause. I just need to lay down. I'm not going to sleep, but I'm just going to...
A horizontal pause. I love that.
And that is so beautiful. And how do you love others?
I love others through really deeply seeing them beyond the stories that they're telling me, to really see them and to create a safe space for them to be exactly as they are.
I like how this keeps coming up, letting people be exactly as they are.
Yeah.
And so what if you get a really...
They're
person
gonna.
Because it's funny, because everyone wants to talk about the president, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't talked about that yet. So
you're waiting.
You are a perfect person.
So do a Byron Katie worksheet on the president.
Right.
Yeah.
And so let's you just do it. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
So but
you're Byron Katie.
Let's go into that. But the other thing I was just gonna say before that is, so as a psychotherapist, no matter, like I remember judging somebody like Christina Aguilera back in the day.
Right.
And then I dropped in to really hear her story. And I just had so much compassion and so much love.
Right.
And I felt the same as a therapist. Was like, no matter what I would call somebody as doing something bad in the world, when I really dropped in to hear the story, I had so much compassion.
Right.
And so I feel like that's our nature. We're good-hearted people.
She's also a woman.
Well, no, I mean, Christina Aguilera is great.
Right,
she's lovely.
Great.
But
and
I just mean any
for women to love other women. I'm totally putting, you're not gonna run from this. I personally need, and I think the community needs a person like yourself, Miss Love Bunny, speaking love into
the conversation.
Yeah, I feel like
I may not agree with or vote for Trump and how he makes a stand, but arguing with him in my mind is not helpful. So I don't want to waste my own energy doing that.
Right.
If I want to take a stand to do something different, I will. But I don't want to waste my precious energy arguing in my head about something, you know, and I'm sure if I sat down with him, I would have compassion. And this is one thing that does help me. I know in the beginning when I found out who our president was going to be, it was like, from a bigger context, I have no idea how this is playing out, how this could be serving. So for me, I know that this is a loving, intelligent universe. Doesn't mean I am complacent. Doesn't mean that I won't take a stand and try to make a change in the ways that I do.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I will do that from againstness, because I actually don't think I'm that powerful. And somebody that I know and that I love very well had voted for Trump, and I sat down just to ask him why. Like, tell me, I want to understand. So I had an open mind enough to really hear, which I think is helpful to make a difference.
Right.
And so having compassion doesn't mean that I'm complacent, that I don't take action. And I can be compassionate for somebody that's hurting, and I can recognize it, and be mindful of how I spend my energy in my own head and
so
my
basically,
body.
if it's something that you really don't align with, you're not necessarily going to spend your energy speaking against it.
I will speak for what I'm up to. So, for example, one of the reframes that I've had around the presidency is how many women are in power as a result, and how many. I just always trusted. I didn't feel powerful enough to make a change politically, and I wasn't that involved. I'm more involved now. I'm more aware now, and so that's really empowered me instead of just putting it into somebody else's hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's powerful. I think getting involved and doing what you can is the key to make you feel better. Me personally, like, if I feel powerless, it doesn't serve me. But I feel more powerful when I just do what I can in any situation. And in this situation, it was just asking the question, you know, because I feel like if there are more people that are conscious, speaking life and speaking love into the situation, more people can mirror that and say, okay, you know what, maybe I can have compassion. Maybe I can see how this is going to play out on a big level. Maybe I can look at how many minorities and how many women are now in office, you know, and seeing the full picture.
That's right.
And so that's why I wanted to dive deep a little bit.
Yeah,
I haven't
good.
Really...
Hold me to the fire.
But I feel like you're the perfect person because
Yeah.
it's really a practice,
Yeah.
and you've done a lot of work and a lot of practice, and I really think that's what it's going to take to really continue to have this conversation and speak love into it.
Yeah.
And
not get caught up in the drama.
And
to do a worksheet to
Exactly.
say, I judge my president, and literally, what is the mirror that he is mirroring to me?
Absolutely.
And how do I vote with my views and my money and my vote? And how do I show up in the ways that I can?
I love it.
So good.
So you kind of already answered, how do you love the world?
Yeah.
But can you share with us just like everything that you have going on?
Yeah.
And how people can find you?
Yeah. I coach a lot of coaches. I train them and support them. That's part of the work that I do in terms of supporting change in humanity, is being able to help light workers really do this work so that their ripple effect, we can all do it together.
Right.
And then I also really love in-person deep dives in Los Angeles. So I'll do soul-centered retreats for professional women, and people can find me online or at alyssanobriga.com.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And at the end, we like to throw some love out to the community. Until next time, get loved up.